I have always loved the Olympic Games. The humanity displayed through international competition has always been compelling and inspiring to me. I felt proud when I joined the AAU in 1994. The Amateur Athletic Union was founded in 1888 to standardize and codify sports in the United States. The AAU subsequently has led our Olympic movement for nearly a century. Jerry West has stated time and again that his most valued award, and he has many, is his Olympic gold medal from the 1960 Rome Games. At just 22, West co-captained the USA Olympic team with Cincinnati's Oscar Robertson, the only other amateur player in the country that was his equal. Other American athletes competing in Rome that year read like a list of American heroes. Decathlon gold medal winner Rayford Johnson, sprinter Wilma Rudolph, who won 3 gold medals, and Cassius Clay, an AAU national boxing champion that took the Olympic gold medal in the light heavyweight division. Clay would, of course, change his name to Muhammad Ali in 1964. Jerry found himself in the midst of the world's greatest athletes, but he may have never made the Olympic team if it weren't for the support of a few people who took a keen interest in Jerry's success early in his collegiate days. After leading East Bank High School to the West Virginia State Championship in 1956, Jerry had multiple scholarship offers, but he never gave much consideration to any other school than West Virginia University. The following academic year, Jerry would begin his collegiate career as a Mountaineer and head coach Fred Schaus' basketball program in Morgantown. 3 hours away from his isolated upbringing back in Chelan, Jerry was away from home more than he'd ever been, and feelings of homesickness quickly settled in. He took a room at 65 Beechhurst, a boarding house for West Virginia young athletes run by the 40-something pharmacist Ann Donardi. But just as freshman year got underway, Jerry's feelings of insecurity led him to return home. Home wasn't much, but at least it was familiar. Jerry West might not have thought much about himself in that moment, but Coach Schaus had other plans. He had another underclassman find Jerry and get him back to Morgantown. As affable as Jerry was introverted, Willie Akers jumped in a car and headed to Chelan, where he found Jerry playing games on his front porch with his younger sister. Jerry and Willie became inseparable friends. It was the beginning of a lifelong friendship. Once back at 65 Beechhurst, Ann Donardi's empathy allowed Jerry to finally start feeling a sense of home in his heart. In terms of both love and tough love, Ann fulfilled a role of surrogate mother, and Willie was like a brother. Before he knew it, Jerry was engaging in the pop culture of 1956. He and Willie were big fans of Marilyn Monroe's Academy Award-nominated Bus Stop, in which the protagonist, Beauregard Decker, likely reminded Jerry of himself, frightened at the idea of talking to girls. By sophomore year, Coach Fred Schaus wanted Jerry to wear jersey number 33, but that was the number that Hot Rod Hundley had wore the year before, and Jerry didn't like Hundley's flashy game. Jerry was a player who based himself in fundamentals and hard work, so Jerry declined number 33. This marked a seminal moment for Jerry West. He took control of his career and he chose number 44 instead. That was the number that football great Jim Brown had worn at Syracuse. To say Jerry had a successful career in Morgantown would be an understatement. He was, quite frankly, the greatest player the university ever had. In his junior year, Jerry led the Mountaineers to the only tournament championship final appearance in school history. Losing by a single point to a Pete Newell coach Cal team, West was named the most outstanding player of that NCAA tournament, an accomplishment that's never been replicated. Pete Newell and the Cal Bears were the 1959 winners of the NCAA championship, but Coach Newell did not protest the selection of West as most outstanding player. Newell would go on to coach the 1960 USA basketball team that would compete in the Rome Olympic Games. So after Jerry's senior year, during the Olympic trials and still unsure of his status, Jerry became reassured by Coach Newell that either both of them were going to Rome or they were both staying home.
The great Oscar Robertson of Cincinnati, Adrian Smith of Kentucky, and Jerry West of West Virginia, the United States Olympic team.
Jerry regards his Olympic gold medal as the greatest athletic achievement of his life, and Pete Newell as one of the great influences and mentors. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan, one that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Yeah, Tina's a big fan of her pumpkin bread.
Hello,
my daughter,
welcome.
Good. So we're going in here, huh?
So we'll go in there, but hopefully Wayne told you about, will you take a little shot pregame? No? No shot, no shot. All right, let's give Wayne. Wayne will take one in your stead.
Okay.
I heard you're knocking him down at Mother Fairmount.
I've seen one of them. What's Wayne?
Wayne! Wayne out. Knock it down. We all know you as number 44, but I saw some pictures and it looked like you had number 12 at East Bank and also number 42. Is that just you going up the ranks of the, like?
Well, and it's really weird. Numbers are, I don't even remember numbers. I think in the Olympic Games, I don't know what.
Number 3, baby.
It's 1 through whatever, okay?
Yeah.
It's not, you can't have a number. And, but when I got to college, they wanted me to wear 33. And a player who played there was kind of in West Virginia, a legendary figure, Rod Hundley.
Hot Rod Hundley.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They wanted to wear me to wear his number. I would not do it because I was not like him any way, shape, or form. I didn't want to play like him.
I watched him turn the ball over.
And so 44 was the number that I had, and it was my number throughout my career.
And that became your thing. Now, you were as close to Lexington or Columbus as you were to Morgantown, technically.
Pretty close.
Did any of those, did Ohio State or Kentucky recruit you, or you just, West Virginia seemed like what you wanted to do because of where you grew up?
Honestly, I had so many recruiting offers, even from Ivy League schools.
Wow.
But I visited only a couple places.
Okay.
University of Kansas. I flew from Charleston, West Virginia. First time I've ever been in an airplane in my life. It was a single engine plane.
Oh boy.
And I went there and met the coach of Kansas and also a big Kansas booster. And they had Wilt Chamberlain there. And so we had a long talk, and I went back, and then I went to visit University of Maryland.
Okay.
And I only did it because one of the guys who was my lifelong friend still is today, Willie Akers. For some reason he wanted to go, and we went over there.
Road trip.
Had a bunch of real big guys, and this was really kind of weird. And at that point in time, this wasn't like staying at the Four Seasons or any of these upper crust hotels, and we stayed in the arena where they played the game.
Like in a cot or something?
At 2:00 in the morning, magically, a basketball appeared. And the first day we were there, all they did was pay a lot of attention to these other guys, okay? And, here's this quiet kid from West Virginia there. And after that, the next day, I don't think they talked to any of those other guys. They were talking solely to me. Oh, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to go there. And so obviously somebody had been watching. And I had a lot of offers. Kentucky, I just didn't want to go anywhere except West Virginia University. I just felt it was home, and it's where I belong. And
Maryland
that's why I went there.
Maryland would have confused me. I never knew what a terrapin was. So I would have said,
well, you're not from back east.
Yeah, I'm not from back east.
If you go, you can find them in the woods.
That's what
you don't know about things like that.
I don't. No. It's interesting. I guess you're recruited by these other schools, but then you certainly had your opportunity to travel a little bit around at that time. I found the story of Ann Donardi heartwarming, because we all need people who take us in and guide us at some point in our life. And it seemed like she was a really important person in your life.
She was huge. She was my secondary mother.
Yeah.
She called me every name, little Italian lady, this tall, this big around. And her sister looked identical to her, and they lived together. They were all basically never got married. And they cared for me like I was their own. And I've never been called so many horrible names in my life, by Anne in particular. But when I went there, she probably saved me from leaving school.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there. I was, homesick for a town of nothing. I didn't feel like I belonged. I had no ability to communicate with people. Mm-hmm. I had no social skills. I was so shy. If I'd go into a class, I was even shy going into class. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, that's not true. That's not true." Well, that was me.
Yeah.
And but she convinced me that I should stay. And then there was one other incident when I was there that the coach then, who's now deceased, Fred Schaus, who was my coach here in Los Angeles, mm-hmm. He called me into the office one day, and we had an undefeated team when I was a junior. And you mm-hmm. couldn't play as a freshman then. And we had an undefeated freshman team too. And he called me in his office, and probably the lowest feeling of my life was after this conversation. He said to me, he said, we're going to make a change in the starting lineup. Now, we're undefeated. And he said, and I just looked at him, and I said, why? He said, well, we need more rebounding. And I said, well, I'm a leading rebounder in the team.
Right.
We had a 6'10", 6'11" guy by the name of Lloyd Sher, who's now deceased, who was an All-American candidate. And I had more rebounds than him. And then he was, well, we need more scoring. And I said, I'm also the leading scorer on the team. And this is a conversation. And then he started talking about defensive play. And that was my skill.
Yeah.
That was there from the time I was a freshman to throughout my whole career. And most people really just talked about the scoring part of it. And I said, well, Fred, I said, I guard everyone's best scorer, right, regardless what size they are. And so I left there and I went back to this little place, 65 Beechhurst Avenue, which is now Jerry West Boulevard in Morgantown, West Virginia. And and this little house was not there. And there was always athletes, particularly basketball players, that stayed there. It was like 4 little bedrooms there, okay? And I told her, I said, Dad, I'm going to quit school. I said, I'm going home. And I told her, I said, I'm going. And we had a long talk, and it was one of those talks that that only someone like her could have with me, because I was just so hurt that he didn't even know who I was.
Yeah.
Period. He did not know who I was.
Yeah, he didn't know how to get to you.
And it was probably the most awkward thing in my life. And when I left that meeting, I said, I can't play for this man ever again. I can't do it. And some way, somehow, I went back, and we had the #1 team in the country that year. And I learned a huge lesson that day, okay?
Yeah.
About believing in yourself,
mm-hmm.
When no one else believed in you. And I didn't believe he believed in me. And he was the one who was begging me to come to school there.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, this doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. But I stayed and endured a lot. Never missed a game in college. A lot of huge disappointments, very much as my professional career. But that was a telling moment for Ann Donardi in my life. And she was like She loved me to death. I always felt that I knew what love was when she was around, when I didn't know what love was before.
I thought it was touching that you were able to, speak her name in the White House when you got the Medal of Freedom, and she got. There's many people I bet like her that help young people and guide them and do it selflessly, and it was nice that she got that moment. So one of the things I like too is you mentioned is Roy Williams was your East Banks coach, and that you kind of always heard his name in your head as far as defense and toughness. Am I accurate on the name? Is that your high school coach?
He was my high school coach. Okay, he's also the football coach, and he stressed defense. He really did, and probably had something to do with him coaching football. Because I think everyone who coaches football teams, they want a foundation where teams, they don't have to outscore everyone some night. And in basketball, people see these marvelous players make shot after shot after shot. They don't do that every night. And so you need a foundation, and the foundation to keep you in games. When maybe you're not shooting well for 3 quarters, and all of a sudden the last quarter you're still close, and you get it going, you win the game. You can't outscore teams every night. You have to beat them other ways. And I think the key to it is to be an offensive team, a defensive team, a physical game, an offensive game. There's 4 or 5 elements that can keep you competitive if you have the right kind of players. Right. If you don't, you're going to lose those games because people lose confidence very fast, and particularly when they don't win a lot. Winning breeds confidence.
Was the Final Four in '59 the first time you met Pete Newell?
Say it again now?
The Final Four in 1959, was it the first time you met Pete Newell?
I really didn't even meet him then. I didn't meet him until we had tryouts for the Olympic Games in 1960. And he came to be someone that maybe I admired most as a coach and as a human being. This was an incredible, wonderful man. He was never deceptive. Never told you anything you wanted to hear. He was honest. And trust me, that's rare. And particularly in the NBA. There's so many people that are deceptive. I understand why it happens. But it's not fun when you're dealing with someone who is not very sure of himself at all. And he's someone I came to love and admire during his years that I knew him.
So I know you had 60 was the Olympics, but 59 you went to the Pan Am Games, and that was in Chicago, I think. And I was curious about the tryouts or the tryout procedure. It sounded like there was a round robin, there's AAU teams, armed service teams, something like that?
No, that was not at all. That was a selected team. Okay?
Oh, it was a selected team from those branches?
But the Olympics were a different story. And
okay.
You had a lot of amateur basketball, and they had always won this tournament, the amateur people. And people would say, well, how can amateurs beat the best college players? Well, most of these amateurs work for people, these big companies, and they were all American players, but they went to school not to play professional basketball. And at that point in time, you made no money playing professional basketball. So these guys ended up having a career. And as I mentioned, the only time a amateur team had ever won that tournament was in 1960, and we won every game handily.
Oh wow! Okay.
And whoever won, they had to select 7 people off of that team.
That's what it was. Okay.
And so that was the way the Olympics worked then. It wasn't like just getting invited and ahead of time they're going to select 13 or 14 professionals and one amateur who shouldn't be on the team in the first place.
I love the story of the 60 games. To me, just looking back, I love the Olympic Games, and that seemed like the last time before, drugs became an issue with any of the countries. It seemed like it was a truly amateur experience for most of the athletes, and also there seemed to be this spirit about those games in Rome. And I take it you feel the same way, because I know you're proud of your involvement in those games, and you've mentioned that's your proudest moment was winning that gold medal.
Well, it was the proudest moment for me, and I think the biggest thing that made it for me is that there was so much going on in the world then, okay? There was the Cold War, the threat of nuclear war, the racism. And this was a bunch of people from all walks of life who happened to get together and had one of the greatest teams ever at that point in time.
What a team.
And to walk through these people who were professionals was pretty amazing experience. And I never forget the speech that Pete Newell gave before the last game. Everything is cumulative points.
In the Olympics,
okay? And we were going to play the Brazilian team. Everyone thought it was going to be USA against Russia. That didn't work. We beat the Russians, and
the first
probably the best game I played was against the Russians.
Yeah.
You just hated, at that point in time, you hated them. But frankly, I probably hated every player I played against. I didn't like them.
Right.
And it was just
Sounded
something.
a little more.
I like these people away from the game, and I'm talking about in the NBA. But on the court, I didn't like them. Okay, It was my, I guess, self-motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But during that period of time, as I say, there was just so much going on. But Pete's very stirring pre-game talk against Brazil. He says, guys, we can't lose this game by 71 points, okay? 71 points. And I think we ended up winning about 55 or something like that. But this was truly a great team. We didn't play half the game. I bet I didn't play 20 minutes of the game, 22, 24 minutes. The Russians, I played a little bit more. But most of our exceptional players, and there were 3 or 4 there that I think stood above the rest. Most of those people hardly ever played. We all played a little bit, not very much.
Did you get a chance to see some of the other sports while you were there? I mean, I know like Wilma Rudolph, Rayford Johnson, Cassius Clay.
I saw them all.
Oh, you did?
Muhammad Ali was there.
Wow.
And, he was this
That's so
character. You could hear him walking around the Olympic Village. It was like dogs traveling with their master, and he was throwing him, dog bones and stuff. He was amazing for a young kid, and obviously his career and speaks for itself. But I saw all of them. I saw the Americans over there who, some of these track and field people. You hear only about the Americans. You didn't, at that point in time, you didn't have all the information you have about sports throughout the world. And to see some of these names that were in Kliegleitz, okay, lose, it was amazing. And I'll never forget John Thomas, who was our high jumper.
High jumper, yeah.
Everyone was talking about him, and all you heard was the Russians had 3 guys that could jump over 7 feet. 3 guys. Well, he came in third.
Ooh.
He came in third. And let's see, who was the sprinter for us? I remember a guy from Germany won it. His name was Armand Hari. Okay, yeah. Armand Hari. Now, why I can remember that, I don't know. I was there, and I was like stunned that
somebody's moving like that.
That they lost. Stunned,
yeah.
And everyone said that he cheated and started a race too soon. They proved that his fast twitch muscles were as faster than anyone in the world, and he won the 100-meter dash. I do remember another funny story going over there, and at that point in time, they had these old, the new jets that were flying. We didn't get one of those. We were on one of those
twin prop,
four engine, I think they call it Stratoliners or something like that. And I was sitting in the back of the plane, and I weighed 172 pounds, and I was right in the middle seat between 2 American shot putters. These guys all weighed about.
So they
all weighed about 280, and I'm here like this. Thank God. I never slept 1 minute going over there. I was afraid they were going to crush me in the middle.
Thanks for joining us for a very Jerry Christmas, part 3 of our 4-part series with basketball legend Jerry West. drops on December 31st. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by Christine Jinbo and me, Marley Rice. Directed by Chris M. Alport with studio support from Alpha Command Unit and shot by bad boy Bobby McCall.
Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories, Inc. You can find us on audio platforms everywhere and the High School Narrative iOS app. You can also view Denny's shows on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV.
Make sure to press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show.
Hey, you know what else would help us grow the show? Hustle on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and more.
We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more.
To find all our social media links, hustle on over to sportstoriesdl.com.
SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement.
The My Stuffed Bags Foundation, with the help of thousands of people across the country, provides children in unfortunate situations with new belongings and new hope through its innovative My Stuffed Bags program. Heroes Movement is a nonprofit that bridges the gap from therapy to getting strong again through small group workouts for any veteran of the United States Armed Forces for free. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We want to give a big thank you to our partners of the show.
So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com.
Sports Stories thanks all of our followers and listeners. And
We will see you next time.
Hey, thanks, Marley.
Thanks, Chris.
If I could just say a couple of things here. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Have you seen it? Have you heard about it? Well, I'm here to tell you. Greatest show ever. Now, take it from me. I worked in circus all my life. I am one of the main attractions. So go watch Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. And don't forget to let them know Leo the Leopard sent you. Can I get a cocktail, please, now?
Kick it out, Book!